Greetings and welcome, Scapers, to another Scape Shot. Magebit here. Joining me today is Hannah. How you doing, Hannah?
I'm doing pretty good.
Glad to finally be able to address this. I've been fairly silent on the actual bullhorn end of things as far as doing a Scape Shot or a Runescape Weekly in regards to this, because I really wanted to wait until it was more than just speculation and taking random stabs in the dark. And here we finally have the post that we've been waiting for the past couple of weeks. And,
I think we can also both say that, we both have criticisms of microtransactions, as people are about to hear, but we were both very frustrated with how overboard people went with it, especially on Reddit. It was just it's kind of been a shit show for the past few months. Criticizing something is totally valid and fine, but yelling for people to lose their jobs and just turning the entire subreddit into one giant meme fest, that subreddit used to be useful for things, and it hasn't been useful for probably 6 months.
People were literally downvoting genuine questions about the game and about, how to progress in the game, what the subreddit is actually for, helping each other out, just to make MTX posts float to the top, and that is not okay. That I'm a little disappointed in. There's definitely, multiple sides to this protest. I think that's fair to say that, in this protest community that we have going on right here, there are varying levels of extremism, and I want to come out and just put myself on the spectrum of where I fit as far as how extreme my stances are, and you're free to do the same as well. But, at one end of the spectrum we have, microtransactions are amazing, GTFO, all the complainers, you should be able to spend as much money on the game as you want. And on the other end, I think we have, microtransactions need to be completely removed from the game. And I think both of those opinions are stupid. I think both ends of this argument are bad. There's a centrist opinion that I think, need to kind of consider if you're going to have a reasonable debate with anybody about this, because the second you take your opinion or your ideology to an extreme, nothing's going to get done except a bunch of yelling and arguing, and we're going to just end up right back where we started. Or at the very least, Jagex isn't going to take you seriously if you're immediately advocating for the dethroning of, certain people, or just the expectation that today, a random Monday in 2017, Jagex was going to announce the removal of Treasure Hunter, much to the chagrin of the entire board of directors and parent companies that are involved in Jagex. It's an unrealistic expectation to have as a whole. So if you were going to quit today, short of them saying they were going to remove Treasure Hunter, you were going to quit anyway.
And see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, once it's all died down. I'll be honest, I haven't played the game in a couple of weeks just to kind of get my head straight. And I played for the skill and chill, that's about it. What I mean by I haven't actually played the game and done what I want to do, really, in a couple of weeks. And, I came back today. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been on a couple-month break myself, but not even tied into any of this stuff. I've just been, sucked into Destiny 2.
That's fair.
I'm barely playing.
I'm looking forward to getting sucked into that tomorrow. When I came back today, more so just to kind of cover the situation, I went into the World 66, just, because, why not? And, I immediately had nostalgia for the game as I logged in the Max Guild, and I was just like, oh, RuneScape. I feel like it made me happy to be in the game, and then immediately went to, I went to see how rioty it was, and I quickly got really depressed about it. It's just, literally, if you go there, it's just some people calling the protesters bad names, and then the protesters just yelling unreasonable requests. There's no middle ground, and I think that is kind of where we've gone with this. Where we're at right now is unfortunately, there's no statement that Jagex can make that is within this realm of possibility that is going to quell what's going on right now. It's just, it's got to burn itself out, unfortunately, at this point.
Yeah.
And
like you said, even like, I mean, if they had announced today that literally every microtransaction is being removed from the game, I would be willing to bet there would still be a World 66 riot, because the people who like microtransactions would be there.
Yeah, no, this is a lose-lose for Jagex.
Yeah, and like you can think that there aren't a lot of people like that, but we've literally had previous guests on the show like that, and I guarantee you there are a lot of people who have zero problem with microtransactions. Like Pern isn't someone who uses them, but Pern is someone who has no problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
And there, then there's people like Lexi who we've had on the show who loves microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
And
thinks it's better than Solomon's, like, and
yeah.
we again, things are not black and white. There's a spectrum of how people feel. There's no easy answer to this, because yes, there are people who love, these types of things, and there are people who love microtransactions, and then there are people who specifically love gambling based microtransactions. There are people who like item malls. I'm one of those. I like item malls. I like cosmetics. I like it when that was one of my favorite things about Black Desert Online's shop, was the majority of things were cosmetic, and that was fun to me. Yes, there were plenty of convenience items as well, but those convenience items were mainly for the low to mid level grind, and once you were high tier, there was really no need for them anymore. But that aside, I'll try not to derail myself too much here. But yeah, go ahead.
To establish where like I come from on this, and I mean we've talked about it a long time on this show. Obviously, this is a topic that comes up constantly. You can't not talk about it if you're a RuneScape 3 player. I mean, especially if you're involved in the community like we are. But in a perfect world, I would want zero microtransactions in RuneScape. That means no cosmetics. That means no XP boosts. Like nothing. That is like my dream state for RuneScape.
Yeah.
But the realist in me knows that that's not possible, and in part because people have to be tricked, for lack of a better word, which tricked in the case of Treasure Hunter is right, but also even in the case of Solomon's, people have to be tricked into spending money on the games they like. Like, this is where microtransactions came from. Like, the price of video games has not gone up if you compare it to things like inflation. Like, we've been paying $60 for video games for a very long time. I mean, sure, RuneScape is double the price that it used to be, but for how much more effort RS3 takes to develop now, because it's such higher graphic detail and all that stuff, it should probably be $20 a month. But the thing is, people don't like that upfront cost, and I personally would love it. And you can kind of see examples of this. Like earlier today, I shared a post with you where someone was complaining about Runemetrics Pro, and like people were like, "Yeah, this is the worst microtransaction in the game." And it's like, to me, that's the best. Like, I would be happy if RuneScape cost $10 a month, and then there were like 4 to 5 packages that each added $5 a month. So you have like your Runemetrics Pro package, you have your Action Bar and Bank Space package, and so like depending what you want, you can purchase certain packages. There's a bundle that saves you like $5-10 if you buy it all in a bundle. That type of stuff. So
are you leaning more towards like an a la carte model? Am I picturing that correctly? Or
yeah,
okay. Yeah, and then they bundle them together, and obviously, so I mean, kind of similarly to what I think you see more in like the entertainment industry. Then, like, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad way of going about it. It allows people to pick and choose their level of access. You know what you're getting up front. I can appreciate that.
And I mean, like, I don't think it would work. Like, fortunately, it would not bring in the same amount of money that microtransactions do. Otherwise, Jagex would do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that they're on like the most addictive system, right? Like, there's nothing that they can do that's probably going to really make more money than using the mechanics they're using right now. Right, I think. I mean, maybe something worse will come along in due time, but not to RuneScape specifically, just to the industry or whatever. But I don't know. I would much rather like to see what I'm purchasing, but I think you're correct. I think you're absolutely correct. Is most people prefer not thinking about the money they're spending and rather just thinking about the goods that they're receiving. But when you slap that price on it, it's all they see is that price, and they don't think about anything but that, and that dissuades people. So I get where you're coming from when you say tricking people. It is kind of sad, but that's it happens all the time in retail, right? You go in for one thing that you think's going to be cheap, and then they upselling you is always the goal, whether they want to admit it or not. But they have to kind of convince you that you actually need this thing. They have to attach actual value to it. That's one of the arguments that I saw is if they just attached actual value to the things in Solomon's General Store. I don't necessarily mean an actual cash value, but if they showed the value of the items in game, people would be more likely to purchase them. And I don't necessarily think that that's true. I mean, look at Bank Space. Bank Space is in Solomon's General Store, and a lot of people hate that. Rune Metrics, you're right. That's a great example of people hated when Rune Metrics came out because it was again, it's one more thing you have to subscribe to. But can you imagine if Rune Metrics was on, like, you had to get your Rune Metrics access from Treasure Hunter? That would also be ridiculous, would it not?
Yeah.
So,
and, like, to me, Rune Metrics is, like, it's so straightforward. Like, these features, you don't need these features.
Yeah.
They add some stuff to the game, but not really anything super important. And the coolest thing about them is probably the history that you get if you constantly subscribe to it. So, like, it's completely fair to have that be something that you subscribe to. It's not like they're, like, neutering the game in any way, which, like, arguably, like, the bank space limitation it kind of feels like that, although you get a crap ton of bank space anyway. But it's still, that one kind of hurts. Or even action bars specifically, like having 5 action bars when you get, like, hardcore into PVM is not enough.
Presets. Like, the fact that it cost $80 in real money to unlock all presets in game, if you're gonna pay with your real money opposed to bonds, which, that's the other argument, right? Is that bonds are a thing and they can give access to these things to players without spending the money. That's kind of one of the major, that was one of the selling points of bonds initially, I think, was that it enabled people who were at a monetary disadvantage to still participate in these activities. Do you have anything to say about those types of microtransactions?
I mean, I think having bonds as a subsidy is a great idea, but that only works for your most hardcore players. Like,
Definitely.
Your average player is not going to be able to pay in bonds for anything. It's a lot of money. Like, I would imagine the average RuneScaper probably has less than 20 mil gold, That's kind of my issue with bonds, is they are great for me. They're great for players like myself. However, the average player who is still economically disadvantaged, but also is working 2 jobs, 2 maybe low-paying minimum wage jobs to support themselves, is not going to have the disposable income nor the time in game to access either of those methods, because one of them requires you to be a hardcore player, and the other one requires you to have a good, monetary status in life. And there's still plenty of people who don't fall into either of those categories, and that is where my argument against bonds being the end-all, be-all to my argument, basically the cutoff point for my argument being that if there are still players that don't have access to them because of those 2 things that I just mentioned, then we really haven't solved the problem. Bonds, in my opinion, bonds really only solved the issue of what was I going to say? It really solved the issue of gold trading to some extent. It helped Jagex kind of put a curb on that. It gave people a way to maybe not go to the black market, but the fact that people can purchase membership with them and whatnot is also a good thing. But I don't see bonds as kind of a solution in the way that it was presented initially. But anyway, I guess again, we can restate our points here, and then I'll read the article and we can discuss the changes that are coming. But my position overall is pretty much that microtransactions are a necessary evil, but they need to be kept in check. We need to not use the predatory mechanics that we're starting to see in some of these microtransactions, and that's pretty much what I'm advocating for the removal of. I want to see Treasure Hunter, if anything, is just a system where people get little bonuses here and there. I don't like it, but I know it can't just be removed. I just want it to be curbed. I want to make. I don't want to see things like that. That what was it? That glow thing that
was basically a slot machine. Like, I don't want to see things like that anymore. Treasure Hunter, like, honestly, I thought Wheel of Fortune was rough, but things seem to have escalated in that direction. Go ahead.
I think it's worth saying that, like, this is an industry problem too.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
You're only a RuneScape player, like, you can feel like this is a RuneScape problem, but this is not. Like, MTX isn't the only company that does this. Like, even Overwatch, which is a game that we praise a lot, has predatory loot box mechanics that are very similar to Treasure Hunter. The only difference is you don't get an in-game advantage, but, like, they clearly put a lot of time into making their cosmetics super appealing, and that can be just as predatory to people who want to collect every fancy outfit.
The whole idea of collect 'em all is probably one of the original predatory methods for tricking people into spending money that they probably didn't really mean to spend. I mean, it's been around as long as those freaking 25-cent quarter machines that would spit out toys have been around. Like that, companies have been marketing towards children and adults alike, because it's psychology is just a way to get people to unfortunately separate themselves from their money. It's just really where my stance comes in is just I have a deep love for RuneScape specifically, but you don't see me out picketing against the $2 billion casino that's being built down the street from me. It's definitely a pet project that I have here because I love the game, and this isn't how the game initially was pitched to me all those years ago. And yes, things change, and my opinion changes too. I feel like I have a pretty open mind. I am pretty open to being to hearing other people's opinions and changing mine based off of reasonable evidence. However, I have a hard time swallowing the more kind of scumbaggy tactics. Like I would never patron a casino, right? I would never go into a casino. Like it's not my style. I don't like those. I don't like things that are that play to my weaknesses, and I have an impulsive personality that is easily kind of swayed towards flashy things. I say it all the time. I'm a weakness to packaging. If you can put something in some really pretty packaging, I'm way more likely to buy it than if not. Go ahead.
The funny thing about casinos too is like they're way more regulated than Treasure Hunter. Like if you go into a casino, there's signage and tons of stuff saying if you have a problem with gambling, like you can get help here. Like they are forced to make it clear that what you're doing can like hurt you and like that you need to be careful. Whereas like Treasure Hunter is played off as this fun little game, and obviously casinos have that partially, but the government has made it so that they can't lie to you entirely, and that you at least have some understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And like part of the problem with the game industry in general is the fact that there are not those regulations, and therefore people just run wild with this shit.
Yeah,
I mean, even like what percentage of chance you have to win something on Treasure Hunter, we have no idea what that is. Whereas like casinos, like they have to have a certain margin of win in their games. Like they can't just like play with the margins randomly. But like Treasure Hunter probably doesn't do this, but there is nothing stopping Treasure Hunter from changing margins literally every time you put in a key. Or
Absolutely.
like if you buy 500 keys, making it way less likely that you'll get something.
Yeah, it would not be illegal and I don't think they're doing this correct, but I do agree that what is stopping them from doing it in the future, hopefully, what we're doing right here and, what's been going on the past couple of weeks is hopefully evidence enough for them for them that it would be a poor decision on their part to take that route. Like, I'm hoping, if anything, what we've achieved from this multiple week long riot is simply that the community cares enough about the game that we will not stand idly by while they do things like that. I guess that's mainly what I have to take away from this. Like, if I have to take one positive thing away from it, at least, I'm hoping that they see that and acknowledge that for their future plans. Go ahead.
So we should transition into the article. So
okay.
Real quick before we do, maybe I'm thinking we should state kind of what our... I mean, obviously I stated my pie in the sky goals for what I would love for
sure.
No microtransactions, but like realistically what we would like to see And for me, what I want to see is, if Treasure Hunter has to stay, I want to see it more cosmetics based. Like, I want to see it be like 80 to 90% cosmetics, and then like little drips of XP here and there, and maybe still have like chaotics and stuff in there, but to have that be a much smaller focus of it, while really you're just putting out, really cool outfits just constantly into Treasure Hunter, and throw them into Solomon's too. Maybe have like a exclusive to Treasure Hunter for a year, and then after a year it goes into Solomon, something like that.
That'd be lovely.
I also think selling like XP boosters in Solomon's would be a good thing as well. Moving away from throwing out lamps in Treasure Hunter and having XP boosters in Solomon's. But what would your ideal changes be?
Yeah,
I guess
within reason, because I mean, I would love to just see a flourishing item mall and Treasure Hunter just be damned. But of course, if Treasure Hunter has to stay, then I probably have a fairly similar view. Is I'd like to see it mainly be cosmetics that are tradable, whatnot. You can sell them that way. There's going to be people who are still have the appeal of wanting to spend the money on Treasure Hunter so they can, get whatever advantage that they feel like they need. But on the same side of the coin, that, those items are either eventually, a year down the line, obtainable in-game via some mini-game, or are just placed in Solomon's General Store and sold at prices that can vary depending on the amount of effort put into the outfit. I've seen some pretty low effort cosmetics, and I've seen some really high effort cosmetics, and I have no problem with them charging different rates for cosmetics that are of varying qualities. Like, I would love to see a cosmetic that is just straight up $80, but it's freaking amazing, and I have no problem seeing cosmetics that are released more frequently that are merely $10-20. But maybe didn't have the same amount of development time. So I guess what I'm saying is, similarly, if Treasure Hunter has to stay, then I would like to see the items that are received from it be less impactful on the skilling community. Again, I come from a position or a point of view that is mainly skill based, and Treasure Hunter and its predecessor, the Squeal of Fortune, have been making my achievements less valuable for a long period of time, as somebody who personally likes to find best ways for the way that I play to obtain my skills. I like to be able to say, you know what, I did that only using this or doing that. Like, that's just how I like to play the game. And what I don't like to see is people being able to just opt out of that experience and yet still obtain the same skill level as me. I have no problem if you want to opt out of an experience. I opt out of tons of high-tier PVM. And because of it, I don't have the rewards and the wealth that would come along with it. Why can people who want to bypass my play method merely drop money and yet still obtain the same XP levels and whatnot? That's, I guess, my major point of contention is I guess I'd like to see it a more even playing field for skillers. I don't mind boosts and whatnot in Solomon's General Store. And this is I almost have to take kind of a contradictory opinion to even make it work, because as a skiller, these types of things just fly right in the face of how I play the game. But I understand that this game is also 16 and a half plus years old, and that there are plenty of new players coming into the game that just don't even have a chance, not even a chance to even get in, the top, 10,000 in a reasonable amount of time. And when we get to those realms, that's where I think Solomon's General Store could really shine with new player boosts. I've said that I would love to see skilling boosts that only affect your level if it's under 99. Like, once you've hit 99, XP boosts don't work on you. You're maxed. Like, they don't work. You have to gain XP through the game. Is that such a radical idea or a terrible idea? I've never really fielded that to another human before. Because that would make a world of difference for me personally, who cares more about 200 millions and 120s.
I don't think it's a terrible idea. Like, I think there's like an interesting dynamic, because like everything that's actually on Treasure Hunter is only exponentially grows to 99. Like, right, it doesn't basically, off of one,
Yeah.
or one or two, but like obviously you can still use it past then.
Yeah.
But then of course you get the random like prayer event or whatever you get where you can buy like 30 mil XP in like 2 hours if you just spend a fuck ton of money on keys, and that has no limit, and that's really where like the big issues come in. And I can totally see that thing there. Like you said, there is the issue of like, RuneScape is a game that originally was very much about leveling slowly over time, but as the game gets older, you have to speed that up in many ways so that new players can actually join. Because if it still took as long to level to 99 as it did at the beginning of RS2, like this game would not be as successful as it is. And obviously, old school RuneScape is there, and people would probably counter example with that. But the thing about old school RuneScape is it's only a 4-year-old game. If you give old school RuneScape 10 to 15 more years, they're going to have these same problems that we do, where they're going to have to figure out how to attract like new players without pissing off their old players too much. Like, I obviously don't think that microtransactions are the right case, but they're going to have to speed up XP per hour, because right now you have to treat that game as a new game. Even though it's based on old RuneScape servers, it's still a new game. It's a 4-year-old game. They can have longer grinds in it because it's not a 16-year-old game, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is a very valid point, and that's why I brought up the age of the game, because, yeah, exactly. Like, my opinion is self-biased to an extent. I mean, that's kind of redundant to say. My opinion is biased because of the sense that I've been around literally since, the first few months of the game's inception. So I have to take that into consideration for players who may discover RuneScape today and, want to have a fighting chance in even enjoying any of the content, when so much of the content is level gated as it should be. There is the problem that content that was level gated 10 years ago is still going to be level gated today, which is why I kind of liked the World of Warcraft model, where it's like every time there's a major expansion, like new players get a boost basically, if they want to kind of get up to speed on things. And like RuneScape, I think, should do that type of thing for its new players. The only thing is, if we're only concerned with, how much money they can make, then yes, continue doing what you're doing right now. But I think that for the long-term health of the game, it makes sense to offer those types of boosts, but limit who can get, access to the OP nature of them.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, I think another approach they could take is like actually like expanding endgame for skillers. Like right now, the only skilling endgame there is to chase 200 mil. But if mine and smithing comes out, and the way they have pitched that system is literally the only way to get better at endgame smithing is going to be to put in time. And you won't be able to augment that time in any way. Knock on wood. That creates a different endgame where like your XP doesn't matter. So like if Jagex wants to keep this approach to dumping out XP, then they need to create ways that skillers have an actual endgame that isn't based in that XP.
Yeah,
or even
that's
things
a good
like
idea.
Things like seasonal high scores that only track base XP. So like sure you can buy bonus XP, but it won't count towards your seasonal high score.
Did you even
like
see
that.
King of the Skill? Like, what a great idea. Like, that sounded like such a fantastic idea. I wish RuneScape 3 was doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, you cater to the skilling. Yeah, if you could make me feel as though XP wasn't the end-all, be-all to being a master skiller, if you would, but it was more about... Again, I loved the idea of smithing mastery and stuff like that, like adding these end games to skilling that were beyond XP. It wasn't about the XP at that point. At that point, you're back to the grind again. You're back to, what you can create, and you can't buy those types of things, but you can buy your way up to there, but but not into there, if you will. Then my tune would change significantly, because again, the length this game has existed for kind of needs, you got to buy it some level of leeway when it comes to those types of things, or you're never going to see a new player. Like, you're just never going to.
Yeah, and that would really be my hope for what we would see. Because I mean, even like there's arguments that even now, like XP is already devalued, right? Like, how many people have rushed skills super high because
I mean,
they're super rich PVMers or they're super rich IRL. Like David knows so many people who are only PVMers and they just dump money in Treasure Hunter or dump gold in Treasure Hunter every time it's a really good promo, because then they just get 120 and 200 mil, and that really hurts that idea. But there needs to be a replacement for that idea, not just an ignoring of that idea.
Yeah, I'm looking at my total XP charts, just speaking of XP, for just overall of all time for me. It's like, in 2014, I had 200 million XP, my entire RuneScape career. 200 million XP, roughly. In 2015, 400 million XP. I doubled my entire character's XP value over the course of 1 year. What do you think changed in 2014 that allowed me to do that? Because I'll tell you what, it wasn't my playtime. I've always played this much. So I think that chart alone, though it's but a one example, I'm zeroing in on one specific example, so this is not by any means a scientific analysis, but just from my own personal experience is like something clearly changed at that point with how the game handed out XP. And I'm not saying that it's Treasure Hunter, but what I am saying is XP rates have to change. Otherwise, again, new players are never going to make it up to where, I was even at 2014 with 200 million XP. That's just a thing that has to happen. It's just I wish that they would do it in a way that didn't devalue my existence, I guess, to be existential about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we get into the actual article?
Nope, I'm ready to
all right.
dig our feet in.
Let's do it. So this was posted by Mod Balance, but this is a group decision. This is attributed to Mod Pips, Mac, Connor, Osborne, Mike, and the RuneScape team. So this is supposedly, allegedly, a collective decision based upon multiple different interactions by staff amongst staff. So let's go ahead and get started here. It says, "Hi everyone. In recent weeks, there's been a lot of discussion and concern from parts of the community about the update quality and use of microtransactions in RuneScape. Our lack of response has made us seem distant and uncollaborative, making frustrations worse, and for that we are truly sorry. We'd like to reassure you that time has been spent deciding on the right changes. In this post, we'll cover the immediate actions being taken and the larger changes we'll build towards in the long term. First, thank you for your comments, ideas, and complaints. Yes, really, your care for the game shines through. You've seen that is the nicest way you could ever say of what happened on Reddit. You've seen content quality and quantity start to slide. You've seen microtransaction promotions march on regardless, and Jagex going quiet on the matter. You're worried that this will just get worse and are concerned for what it means in the long term. We hear you, and we shouldn't have let it get to this point." So again, go ahead.
Obviously, these people, there's people who hate a lot of JMods, and I think Balance is one, especially, who draws hate. But it's clear that they put a lot of thought into this. Like a lesser company would have tried to blame the players. I mean, even you and me at the beginning of the show complained about how toxic Reddit is right now.
Yeah, and a lesser company probably wouldn't have even taken the time to write this.
Yeah,
I mean, I know plenty of companies that do not care what their player base has to say and would just simply shrug it off because it would die down eventually. And if the Reddit truly became unusable, they'd do what H1Z1 did and just start a new Reddit to get away from the problem. There are other ways of solving the problem that are destructive as well to the community, and I think they took a fairly constructive approach. And, people who are complaining about the fact that it took a couple of weeks, I get that. And in the meantime, I kind of stood and watched everything burn. But these things can't just be released. The company isn't two people just hanging around chatting. This has to be discussed, and it has to go through the chain of command. Jagex is no longer a tiny indie company. They're a fairly large developer that has red tape and strings that have to be pulled and dug and shifted around and whatnot. So just
at least
to
in
be
the
fair,
statement Yeah, for releasing a statement quickly, that there's people who are claiming this statement is all just hot air, but like literally releasing a quick statement, it would have just been complete bullshit. Like they couldn't have actually said anything.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they took the time to actually be able to say something in this one.
I mean, as far as what I've read so far, it has been hot air, but that's not to say that you shouldn't be able to open up with an apology and to, commiserate with people. There's meat and potatoes to come here, so stand by. Don't discount them just yet here. So again, I mean, it says here, first, did I say that? Yeah, I already read that part. So it is incredibly important for us developers that RuneScape has a long and healthy life. An essential part of this is providing players with new content, improved features, and solid overall service. The balance we try to strike is that microtransactions is a major part of the game's income and directly relates to the amount we can invest into its continued development. Without that income stream, we would have to massively cut back on investment into the game, and we feel that would be very damaging for RuneScape and the community. That being said, it's clear that parts of the community feel we've neither delivered on the content nor got the balance with microtransactions right. Therefore, we've looked critically at ourselves to understand what happened and how we can do better by you. And that, I think, is again, a big example of why we're even where we're at. Like, if Jagex was hitting 10 out of 10s, like, and I'm being hyperbolic here, but, if they were hitting it out of the park with every update this year, I don't think we would be complaining about this right now. I think that the lack of quality updates has almost created a mob mentality, and Treasure Hunter and microtransactions just also happen to be taking an unusual front seat in the gaming industry right now, as far as a lot of media outlets seem to be zeroing in on microtransactions, loot boxes specifically at the moment, that it almost seems that Jagex kind of caught up in that to some degree, and are maybe facing slightly more animosity than they deserve for this specific thing. That being said, I kind of jumped on the bandwagon merely because I don't like certain types of microtransactions, and I wanted to see where this goes. And unfortunately, there's collateral damage when these types of riots take place, but I digress. I'll continue on here. Content. On the content side, though there have been some good updates, you've not received consistently strong releases throughout the year. There are a few factors moving toward then away from expansion's strategy resulted in a lot of wastage. We picked too many long-term development projects at the same time, stifling regular releases, and we moved a few developers to focus on building the mobile client before we'd hired their replacements. Also, our desire to not overpromise in the RuneScape reveals at RuneFest made it seem like we'd lost our ambition.
This seems like Jagex being extremely candid here. Like they've obviously said that expansions didn't go well, but like actually admitting that like they bit off more than they could chew in a big way, and that it's hurt the development cycle of the game is like companies don't do stuff like this, and it's good to see. Well, actually, people do stuff like this, but they do it like 5 years after it happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, usually, you would hear a thing like this, like 5 years ago when we tried expansions, it was a big mistake. But like, or like in the 15-year anniversary documentary, the Gowers admitted what a big mistake it was to remove free trade. 10 years after it happened. Whereas like a company literally a few months after the big mistake happened, talking about it is a good thing to see and is very candid.
Yeah, and I think that kind of wearing their emotions on their sleeve moment that they're having right now is probably a good thing to do as far as getting people to understand where they're coming from, and that this is a company made up by developers that want to make good content. It's just, sometimes things don't go right. They took a risk with expansions, and unfortunately that kind of backfired on them. And this seems more like a perfect storm scenario to me, rather. Like, the whole microtransaction kind of backlash that we're seeing now, why didn't this backlash happen last year? Or the year before that? Or the year before that? Like,
it did happen last year.
I mean, not to this extent, though, right? I mean, I feel like it was fairly minor compared to how it's been in the past. 'Cause, I've always hated microtransactions. I've just remained relatively kind of silent about it unless asked, I guess.
Well, it's never gotten to this fever pitch before. So I think you're definitely right that like the lack of, or even perceived lack of updates this year, which obviously there have been fewer updates, although I would argue that they are better than most people give them credit for, has definitely made people angry to the point where they're just willing to complain more. Whereas like last year, it was somehow still perceived as a good year, even though we had the giant botch that was Invention, and so that made people like angry, but not like we hate JX angry.
Yeah, it feels like the industry's kind of moving in the directions of, again, I'm going to use predatory loot boxes as a term because I think you could do loot boxes correctly as well, to an extent. I don't know. Like you were mentioning earlier, like Overwatch's loot boxes are technically predatory, but at the very least, they're predatory in the sense that yes, they can kind of impulse people into purchasing things they absolutely don't need, but at the same time they don't increase your ability to be better than one person over the other. Therefore, they get a slightly higher rating in my book than Treasure Hunter. I forget where I'm kind of going with this, but that is really what's always been my issue with Treasure Hunter in the first place was the ease of I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting off topic here. I should really read the article and respond to that. So let me get back on track here, unless there's anything else you wanted to mention. They say we can and will do better, and again, to start that off with, well, I'll believe it when I see it, I guess. But I digress. The content roadmap has been remade in recent months directly by player requests, and we will be doing a new community survey soon to make sure our content plans are the best they can be. No complaints from me there. That's fine. I love surveys.
Is the community survey going to be another thing asking if we want a full rework of Mine and Smithing or half rework?
I hope not. I love surveys, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Stop surveying and start doing, I guess. It goes back to the I'll see it when I believe it. We have also changed our development processes to get more of the updates you want in production to ensure that they're being released more regularly. We will soon be adding a content rating system into the game itself so we can gather feedback from everyone on the content as you play, which in turn helps us respond better. So what are your feelings about this whole, like, you play the content, then you have an opportunity to rate the content and give them feedback? Like, do you think this is going to be... Is this merely just like a suggestion box, or on the other end is a trash bin, or do you think this is actually going to be used?
Well, I think this is what the community's been asking for. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't use this information, but it's obviously going to be an aggregate thing. So, like, if you super hate an update, it doesn't mean everyone super hates it, right? So, like, people are going to have a little bit of moderate expectations as to everything you hate's not going to be like, Jace isn't going to be sorry, we messed that one up, now we'll go the way you want us to, one person.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
I think gathering community feedback is potentially a good thing. I mean, I think it obviously works for old school RuneScape some of the time, but then you have the giant homophobic thing that happened in June, so like, it's a double-edged sword in some ways.
Community's far from perfect, that's for sure. That's an understatement.
It's just like you give a community make a community think they have more power than what they do, and like it can get bad, and like especially because like if the community doesn't actually have good feedback or good ideas, right? Like I mean, we saw that when with a lot of the not power to players, whatever that polling system was called.
With like Rune Labs?
Yeah, Rune Labs. Like the ideas that surfaced there weren't good. So Jagex needs to they need to take feedback, but they need to still let themselves be the final voice and everything, because they're the developers. They know what they can actually do and what they can't do.
I have to say that the one thing I would love to see out of this is that after an update happens, if there is a large amount of backlash towards a specific update or something, that it would be really interesting to see if the in-game rating far exceeded how people were portraying it on social media and forums. Like, I'd be curious to know, because I have this sneaking suspicion that Reddit and other such platforms tend to take things way out of proportion. And I'd be curious to know. I'd be curious to see a community response that is more anonymous and more based off of like the actual player base. So I think Reddit is more of a specific part of the community than anything else. I think it tends to be the end game players mostly, or more of the veteran players. And I normally don't touch a game subreddit unless I've been playing it pretty profusely. Like, that's just my own personal experience. But I would be curious to know if, like, there's this huge hatred for a specific update on Reddit, and they're like, well, I mean, it got, like, an 8 out of 10 from our feedback system that, 100,000 people, gave feedback, and that's probably an unrealistic number. But point being, like, I would be curious if they were able to get a sample size larger than Reddit or the forums that actually showed a completely different response. I'd be curious, and then again, this is more of an experiment than anything else. I'm curious to see if that, and that might never even come to fruition. I might be dreaming that they would even release the information. But hey, this system is definitely not a bad system. It almost seems to be, in my opinion, a slightly reformed version of the player power system, where it's like it's almost like a complement to the player power system. It's like you have the polls to vote on, what you want to influence to be created, and then after the fact, you can even rate how it was, how you thought that update turned out. Like, I think that's invaluable feedback for Jagex, because now they're getting player feedback on both sides of the coin, rather. So yeah, I don't understand. I don't see how this could be a negative thing. I also don't see how it's related to microtransactions, but I get that we're lumping the whole lack of updates kind of as one of the symptoms as to why people are complaining about this in the first place, I guess.
Yeah, that's like what you were saying, where like I think things are at a fever pitch because, partially people feel like there have been more microtransactions updates this year than content updates.
They might be right. But, wasn't that's always been the case. There's always, because promos are easy to churn out, if anything. But, yeah.
The thing that's happened, like, people claim that Jagex hasn't made any progress, and I think, to me, that's a very false narrative. Like, if you look at this, last year, we were complaining about OP items, like having outfits and, like, Silverhawk boots and, like, the Spring Cleaner, exclusive to Treasure Hunter. And over the past year, Jagex has moved so many of those items into the game in earnable ways, which is progress. But the other thing they've done is they've ramped up microtransaction events to the point where they're now literally all week, every week. Where, when I first started playing in 2015, they would run like Thursday or Friday through Monday.
Yeah.
And now it's just every day of the week.
Is it even a promo if it's every single day of the week? Like,
yeah.
Exactly. It has gotten a little ridiculous for sure. And I'm the first person, like, the only types of promos I'd like to see is, like, bonus XP weekend twice a year, maybe. And even that, like, initially I was kind of against bonus XP weekend, but I'm an old fuddy-duddy when it comes to RPGs. I'm a hardcore RPG player. Like, if someone could just take, like, one of I'm sorry. I'm getting, like, pie in the sky dreamy here. Let me redirect my energy back to the article. Otherwise, I'm just going to start spewing a bunch of stuff that just can't happen. All right. So it says here, we are also bringing in new development team members over the coming months to give us greater capacity to deliver on the content quality and make the mobile client ready to make it a reality for you. This is just something that I assume that they were doing anyway. It's sad that has to be said. Like, you should be hiring new content developers because, A, you shifted a bunch of them to the new live events team. You shifted a bunch of them to work on the mobile client. And people leave naturally as well. That just happens. Turnover is a natural thing to happen. So like, the fact that it has to be said that they're bringing in developers is just indicative of, I think, that the lack of quality content in the first place. But, they're doing it. They're bringing in new players. It's going to happen. New developers that are hopefully also players of games, so they know what they're creating. It always cracks me up when, there's people in game design companies that don't play video games, but whatever. Again, I digress. That's a completely different non-issue. These changes will bring a consistently good flow of content. And now, the one thing I don't like about this sentence is the confidence and the absolute statement that's being made. These changes will bring a consistently good flow. We don't know that, and you certainly haven't demonstrated that in the past, so That's fairly confident of you to say, but yay for optimism, I guess.
I mean, I think obviously there's been short-term issues. How bad they are is of personal opinion, but long-term, Jagex has shown that they can put out good content. So, like, I
know it's in them. I know they can do it.
I hesitate to, condemn that, idea just in the fact that, I know they can, if they get back on the right track, I know they can start pumping out good content again,
Sure, yeah. And, I mean, what I'm trying to think of here is who is still left that I know has it in them to make good content. There's Mod Raven, Mod Dag, Mod Ramen, even though I don't like him, I know he makes good content. There's still some good people on the team that should be able to shepherd and, help direct these things. I hesitate to call Mod Mark and Mod Osborne content creators anymore, but they certainly have vision, or at least they used to. I'm wondering if it's a possibility that they've gone so far into their administrative roles that maybe they're not the best to be leading direction for the game anymore. I don't know. I haven't had a personal conversation with either of them. I would love to, but I don't think that's realistically going to happen. But point being, I can still think of some heavy hitters that remain at the company, and yes, there's still possibility for great content to come out of them. Sure, go ahead.
If there's another year of mediocre updates, then yes, there needs to be some position changes, like clearly, because there's been this problem for a long time. It's hard to tell if that actually has to do with management or not, or if it's just sometimes companies just don't put out as good of content as they were, and there's a few year lull in that thing, and I hope that's where we are.
Yeah, it happens.
If we're not in that place, then yeah, people need to be, maybe they don't need to lose their job, but they need to be moved down the org chart and made not the lead developer.
Yeah, I mean, one of my initial knee-jerk reactions was to immediately blame Mod Pips. When he under Cousins, everything seemed to be going fine, and then he leaves and Mod Pips comes in, and then all of a sudden, seemingly everything goes to hell as far as development goes. And I wonder how much of it is actually can you pin on the CEO? Like how much? I feel like that has less to do with game design direction and more to do with the business dealings of things. But that was my initial knee-jerk reaction, was like, fire Mod Pips. But is that fair? Is that fair of me to say? Probably not. But I get it. I get where people are coming from. Good.
I mean, it's like the racist rhetoric on the Reddit of the Chinese overlords.
Yeah, I love that. I ironically love that. Go ahead.
Beyond how freaking racist that is, it's also it's silly. A company that company is not going to be involved super close in micromanaging Jagex because they know nothing about games. And if they were to do that, they would just tank the company. So to think that that's what they're doing, it's just a bit silly.
Some would argue they are tanking the company, but I think that's a fairly apocalyptic view to hold. I don't necessarily think. I mean, you can say that, yet they post yearly, record-breaking yearly profits.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, the real issue is with RS3, right? If RS3 were to die in 6 months, Jagex as a company would be fine. They could fire 99% of their developers and make old school RuneScape and make money. I know people like to say that RS3 is the shield against old school getting microtransactions, which is 100% true. But old school, because of how simple of a game it is compared to RS3, less graphics, less systems on top of systems on top of systems creating spaghetti code. There's less than 5 people who work on that game. So if Jagex really wanted to make money, they could fire all their RS3 devs and just move to making old school, and they would obviously make less money, but they would be a extremely profitable company because it would be very few developers. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was one of my things was RuneScape. If we don't fight for these changes now, RuneScape's probably still going to be around in the next 5 years. I don't think it would resemble anything like the product we see today. and that was kind of one of my rantings initially was, you know, the brand will probably live on, but, you know, their parent company would probably liquidate them. You know, the IP would probably go independent again, and they would probably start from a more they'd probably go to a more old school perspective, and thusly destroying what we see today. And that's what I'm hoping we can prevent from happening. I say we, as in not only the community, but the developers as well. But I also can't quantify that threat. I can't say with any certainty if that is even the actual direction that we're handed to. The thing about being a player, right, and this goes for all of you players out there, like everyone who's playing the game, we don't have industry metrics available to us. We don't get the behind-the-scenes data. We have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. It's just not feasible for everyone to know that, or for them to make that public business.
And right, people always argue that like the daily login numbers, if that one website tracks, shows anything, but it does not tell you how many active members are in the game. People who logging in daily is not active subscribers to a game. We have zero idea how many active subscribers there are to the game.
And we have no idea how many people are even on the fence about this versus are just taking a hiatus but have a year membership, you know, or multiple years membership paid up. Like that's one of the things about online numbers, yes, is they don't tell you very much, because there are plenty of people that are, you know, just not able to play at the moment, but are still subscribed. There are plenty of people who are subscribed multiple times. You know, it is not a very accurate measure of game health.
And even as we said before, like the maturity of the RS3 player base. Like, first of all, RS3 has a game that has a much older audience than old school RuneScape. Older people generally have busier lives, whether it's kids, grandkids, whatever, that affect how much they play. So I feel like there's probably a large percentage of the RS3 base who can only play a couple hours a week, but that doesn't mean they're not active subscribers and active members to the game.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, yeah, if you just because, you know, I'm a member of the ACLU and I pay my dues doesn't mean I hang out at their office 24/7 or ever, really. Like, you can be a member of something and not really contribute very much. You know, anyway, they talk about like how they're putting a lot of resources into the mobile client, right? That was the last sentence I kind of read there, to make it a reality for you. Like they're very excited about the mobile client, yet I continuously see Reddit being very unexcited for the mobile client. Why do you think that is? I personally think that they're using that as a jumping board to equate RuneScape to other mobile games that, as you know, the mobile market is heavily saturated with extremely predatory tactics. Some would argue that that's kind of where they started, and that Jagex is trying to cash in on that market, and I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think, if anything, this has been poor development. This entire year has just been mismanagement of resources more than anything else. But,
yeah, I mean, I think you're right that people think that mobile means more microtransactions, and I don't see that being the case. I think really what mobile is Jagex, as I just said, knowing that their audience has matured.
Yeah.
And also, mobile phones are the single biggest computing platform in the world. Mm-hmm. Why would you not want your game to be on that device if you could have it there?
Years ago, I would have argued RuneScape on consoles before smartphones were a thing. You know, I used to argue, not really argue, but I used to dream really of back in like the early 2000s of them releasing a PlayStation 2 version of RuneScape so I could play, you know, in bed on a controller and whatnot. And that dream is finally being realized decades later through the power of mobile phones. And though now I probably have less use for a mobile client than I've ever had in my life, that is not true for the average individual. And I don't think they're making a misstep by releasing a mobile client. Another thing, I think people are just mad that the bank rework got postponed in favor of the mobile client, but this is the time to release a mobile client now, because a lot of other games are getting on board with that, and you want to be one of the first out the gates.
It's one of the silly things too that like people are like they canceled unfinished business, or they made the bank rework unfinished business and work on this new idea, the mobile client. The mobile client was promised in 2013. it was the first thing announced that was going to bring me back to RuneScape. I remember that announcement happening. MMG, you can look this up. There's plenty of articles about it. But MMG said we're going to have a mobile client out in 6 months.
Yep.
And obviously that never happened. But like the the mobile client is the epitome of unfinished business.
Yeah, it is. It was suggested a long time. That I remember that was the failure of like the WebGL HTML5 engine or something. So they like had to scrap it and go back to the drawing board. And like that was a legitimate reason to have it unfinished, right? Because it just the technology wasn't ready. But like the technology is here. It's ready. It's time to do it. And there are other games that are getting on board that are of similar ilk to RuneScape that are frankly beating them to the market and taking that market share. Why do you want them to not be able to compete there? Like that I don't understand.
RuneScape is a point-and-click game. It's like perfect for mobile.
It is.
Too.
It's like I keep getting ads on Facebook for Lineage 2, which is now I think the tagline is like, "This isn't a mobile game," and but yet it's on mobile, or like this is like it's something weird. Like the point is that they're going for like look, like desktop graphics in a mobile game. Oh, my mind blown. Which I'm like, first of all, yeah, the whole thing is really like the cross-platform compatibility. That's what you're really selling people on, because there's plenty of flashy, beautiful games available right now on your phone. What you're really selling is the community. And I just don't understand why you wouldn't want your community to expand. Like, if you're angry that a mobile client is being developed, then you're angry at new opportunities and new players to interact with. What?
And old players too, right? We have over 200 million people. Well, obviously these are repeat accounts. But over 200 million accounts created. Yeah. And these are going to be players who used to play, who can now play again because it's easier to, you can play on your phone when you're hanging out with your wife and your kids and you're watching TV.
My teenhood best friend would probably come back. He played hardcore, but then just work. He can't. He logs in very rarely now, because of just life. But I guarantee you, he's got a desk job, and if he could easily be on his phone on his lunch breaks or just like in downtime, then heck yeah, he would probably be playing. The only reason it doesn't value to me very much is because I literally work from home and at a desk, and my job very rarely takes me on the road. But when it does, I'm driving and probably shouldn't be playing RuneScape. Despite the fact I've made that joke multiple times, but for real, like it just doesn't work for my specific lifestyle. But I think it's going to be a boon to so many people, and to discount. Anyway,
there's no way there's not going to be a lazy Saturday where you're laying in bed and you're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to log into RuneScape on my phone.
It's very possible. I'm just saying, like, overall, it doesn't appeal to me for in the large majority, but that doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good step for the game.
You're going to be out on a date, and you're going to be bored, and you're just going to like launch RuneScape mobile on your phone. I'm
at a point in my life where if I have to look at my phone on a date, I'm just going to leave that person. The rest of I'm too old for that. Like, anyway, let me keep reading this article here. We haven't even broken the iceberg here. We haven't even reached the monetization.
We haven't gotten to the meat of this.
Yeah, I know we've had a lot of feedback, I have to say, which hopefully has been at least enlightening, or at the very least entertaining to some degree. But let me continue on here to wrap up this section, and then we can pause again if you'd like and continue, but then we'll jump into the monetization changes that they are planning here. These changes will bring consistently good flow of content, and we are going to be showing you our new team structure and progress on new updates and new posts, live streams, and videos in the coming weeks. The mobile client will also be transformative for RuneScape, offering a lot of convenience to current players, as well as bringing many lapsed and new players, which again we kind of covered and agree with. We're confident that together these things will make for a strong year ahead for RuneScape.
I also imagine that RuneScape Mobile could mean a bigger focus on skilling, because I think skilling is going to be the most popular activity. I am someone who advocates that bossing is going to be totally possible, but it's not going to be the best place to boss.
Definitely not.
Skilling activities could be super fun on a mobile device.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great way to kill time in between classes, appointments, anytime you're stuck waiting, it would be a great time to get some skilling in, considering it's fairly low impact, the bane of monetization. On the MTX side, we let the balance tip too far, and promotions seem to dominate the game, especially when coupled with underwhelming content updates. The prize pool promotion design was misjudged, and it crossed the line. So, I mean, they openly are admitting that prize pool, the one where you could build up like a secondary kind of hype meter and get, another prize, but could easily lose that. They admit that crossed a line. So, I mean, that's a pretty big step to make. Also, it sets a precedent for what crosses the line, does it not? Like, now I think we can reference this microtransaction as a previous case for new microtransactions and what is considered overly egregious for the game. Like, I think this is a good thing. Like, I'm looking at this from a legal stance, even though this isn't a legal position to need to be taken, but just the case precedence is important for your argument. So now that they've made this official position, I think that can be used against them in the future if we feel they've gotten out of line again.
Well, especially if you read the next paragraph here, which really goes a bit more in depth on that.
While microtransactions in RuneScape is essential to maintaining our development teams and the content they produce, we believe it can be refined, and the harsher edges smoothed out without significant dents to income. Rest assured, we certainly won't be pushing it any harder. The prize pool promo won't ever be seen again, and we don't intend to revisit similar mechanics anytime soon. I mean, you really should have just said ever, but I understand that talking in absolutes is a dangerous thing.
People still yell at them for the fact that the Gowers said there would never be microtransactions in RuneScape. So.
Yeah, despite the fact that they have no power over the current game whatsoever. And I mean, as much as I loved the way the Gowers, had that opinion, the Gowers weren't perfect. They made Dungeoneering, so they're not perfect
the
either.
Gowers removed free trade. I think that's a better example.
Is it sad that the first thing I go to is Dungeoneering? Like,
it is. According to Jagex's stats, Dungeoneering is the most popular skill ever.
According to MageBit, Dungeoneering is apparently the worst egregious thing to ever enter. I literally was streaming Dungeoneering like yesterday, so whatever.
I mean, it's something where I don't know, companies the times change. Like, in the time when the Gowers said the game wouldn't have microtransactions didn't mean what they do today. Like, I would 100% believe that if the Gowers still owned RuneScape, there would be microtransactions in some way, shape, or form. They probably wouldn't be these XP dumps. It'd probably just be cosmetic outfits, and it'd be way nicer. But this idea that if the Gowers still owned RuneScape, there would be nothing like this, I think is complete bullshit.
You're probably right about that. It's a fun ideal to hold, but you're probably right. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they got out. They knew that was coming, and they didn't. It clashed with Andrew's viewpoint. I don't know. Maybe I'm literally making shit up and speculating at this point.
Well, I mean, we know. I think it was Paul left because he felt uncomfortable about where microtransactions went. So I think there is clearly some evidence to back up what you're saying there.
Fair, okay. So, I mean, also, we've never seen Andrew actually develop another game since RuneScape. He's purely been an engine person. He has his own little research company, and he does engine development pretty much. It's like, they've claimed that they've been working on a new game for, like, the past decade. But, I would love to see them actually produce a game, because I think it would be very evident whether or not what their current stance on microtransaction is or isn't.
And I mean, if people find it hard to imagine what RuneScape was. So imagine if this small side project you're working on, for you, it'd be RuneScape Weekly. Imagine if RuneScape Weekly all of a sudden had 100 million listeners. Obviously you would love that on some level, but that completely changes what you're doing.
Yeah,
too.
I often get nervous about that, just in regards to streaming. It's easy to stream to 15 people, but if I ever was streaming to hundreds of people, and I have streamed to hundreds of people, I think once when Invention first came out, it becomes a whole nother ballpark. It becomes a lot more intimidating, and you have to think about a lot more things. It's hard for one person to handle such a thing. And,
especially if that's not what you set out to do. I
Yeah.
don't think the Gowers ever expected RuneScape to become what it did, like, at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't think anyone could have seen what RuneScape would become while it was being developed. And that's very par for the course, I think, when it comes to these types of things. Just in the entertainment and gaming industry, it's just... In the art industry, just in general, just when you're creating art, you can never know if it's going to take the world by storm or literally be a cult classic or pitter into nothing. You never know. And RuneScape had a very unique scenario, especially being around when this type of game was not really something that was considered even feasible by most developers. So, yeah. Continuing on here, over the next few months, we will be experimenting with promotion configurations such as duration, start days, and marketing levels. I don't really know what that last one means, but to see if there are better trade-offs.
I'm guessing that means, like, popping up ads in-game.
Fair. That's probably a good explanation. To see if there are better trade-offs between visibility and revenue. And when they mention visibility, I think you're probably right about that then. Excuse me. For one of the first experiments, we will not be running Second Chance Tuesday for the rest of the year. We commit to keeping a detailed eye on the game economy and progression rates to ensure promotions aren't going to cause major impact. And to help in the longer term, we are starting a rework of Treasure Hunter, which will have greater emphasis on cosmetics and conveniences.
And to me, this is the paragraph where I can't understand. People were saying this is just fluff, and to me, there's still more to this, but this is the core of what they're saying.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, they're actually coming up and they're doing two things. They're saying the prize pool promo is gone forever, and that's the most egregious promo they've ever done. It was disgusting. And the other thing they're saying is they're not going to use mechanics like that anytime soon. Obviously, we talked about the soon part. Is, it would be better if they could say ever, but saying ever is also a silly thing to say because time is infinite. So, yeah. And the other thing is, like, they're saying they want to see about lessening promos, and not just see about it, but they're going to do that now. I mean, I would love to see it if we can move back to where we get, like, 2 to 3 weekends a month to have promos. Like, that would be where I would like to see Treasure Hunter. It is not every week and not 5 days a week, but like 2 to 3 times a month, or maybe even every weekend. I'd be okay with every weekend, but not. It is the amount of dates Treasure Hunter promos go on is
make them feel like actual promos again, and we could start talking. But that definitely, they need to start to feel like actual promos and not inundations of just cash grabs.
And the other thing they say is starting at Real Treasure Hunter, which will have a greater emphasis on cosmetics and conveniences. Obviously, convenience is a little bit open-ended. If they meant XP there, I'm guessing they would have said XP. I think conveniences means things like Silverhawk boots or things like the elite skilling outfits. And hopefully, if they implement those conveniences, they would also realize they need to be in the game eventually, which I think Jagex has realized that. I think they've proven over the past year that they know that that's the fastest coming game. And seeing Treasure Hunter focus on stuff like that would make you happy, because that means at least not often, extreme XP dumps. And also, to me, cosmetics primarily for Treasure Hunter is my dream.
Yeah, it is a worthy compromise as far as I'm concerned. I'm a little concerned that convenience is a little too broad of a brush to paint, because you can say anything is a convenience, really, but I do appreciate the cosmetic aspect of it, and I'm willing to wait and see what they mean by conveniences, but I'm a little hesitant to accept on their own word that conveniences means one thing or another, because they seem to have been purposefully vague about it. And I consider
it is a broad brush.
Yeah, good.
But to me, if they wanted to say XP, they would have said XP.
I feel like they didn't say XP because they wanted to include XP along with every other convenience, and without calling out XP. That's where my mind goes, and I'm not saying that's what they wanted to do, but that's where my mind goes. That's how I feel. And that's
it's opinion. It's ambiguous, and I can totally understand, which side you come down. I think I obviously have much more faith in the statement Jagex makes than other people, because people claim they don't do stuff with their statements. And as I said, they do. The problem is sometimes they do stuff and then they make other parts bad. Like I think that's what happened over the past year. They started putting things like Silverhawk boots, obviously not that item specifically, but things like it in game. But at the same time, they ramped up the amount of XP promos to a ridiculous level.
I think the only thing, if they could just clarify what they mean by conveniences, you could shut me up real easily. So I guess that's my open invitation for them to just define what they mean by conveniences, so I can, you can either silence me or prove me right. And I guess
I won't be surprised if Reddit. Well, actually, I guess I will be surprised if Reddit asked that. But if someone asked that of a JMod, they would probably respond. I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm gonna wait and see if that question gets asked, and if it doesn't, then I'll probably ask it. I just again, this is my personal open invitation. When I post this episode to all the sources, I'm kind of on the feeling that maybe I should tag Mod Balance and see what they have to say, see what Mod Balance has to say. Like, I'd be curious, because I feel like, if anything, this has been fairly analytical. I've done my best not to jump to conclusions. I've tried to stick to the facts, and I feel like this is a pretty level-headed analysis we're doing here. So I wouldn't feel too upset asking for Jagex to listen to this. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, yeah. I mean, I would love the answer to that same question. And I mean, to hear their feedback on the show. I think I agree with you that we've done a good job. I mean, I was worried about doing this show because I was worried it would turn into us yelling at each other like we sometimes do on the podcast, and obviously that hasn't happened, which has been great. But yeah, I think a little bit more explanation as to what the end of that paragraph means would probably put a lot of peace of mind into people.
Yeah.
'Cause to me, that's the paragraph that, like, the paragraph that most matters in this is literally that paragraph, and having that little ambiguity there does hurt it some, for sure.
Yeah, and I want to touch upon the fact that we do regularly argue about these types of things, and that, I specifically suspended Majepit, the character, the podcaster, like that it's a role I play, and I wanted to approach this more from an analytical, realist point of view than anything else, because there's a time for entertainment and there's a time to take things seriously, and this is one of those times where I feel like information is far more important than entertainment.
And I think we're also both just the subreddit is taking care of the extremism.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to do that on the podcast.
There's no need for a caricature at this point. The subreddit is doing it perfectly fine for me. Yeah. So, again, there's no need to fan the flames because they are self-fanning. So they makes its own gravy at this point. And I don't need to do that. So, I mean, there's no sense in having an argument, really, or a fight over this, because yes, people have different opinions. People have different. They come from different walks of life and have different likes and dislikes. And sure, I've made it pretty obvious that I would like there to be 0 microtransactions in RuneScape, but of course, that would be an unrealistic expectation. And if I was going to quit solely based on that, then I should have quit a long time ago. And I think that's kind of the opinion that's what's keeping me in the game right now, for the most part, as far as like whether or not I was gonna rush to the billing department and cancel my subscription or not, was basically being postponed while I came up with the justification for my feelings, because I've had a lot of feelings, and we've been talking about this fairly passionately in our general chat at discord.runeweek.com. And I get really sweary, and I like to point fingers, and I get pretty belligerent about it, because it's a point of passion, but that's also me working through my own conflictions and my own non-understanding of things. Like it takes a large amount of insight and foresight at the same time to understand this type of intricate issue. And I'm not saying I fully understand it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm more saying that I can't fully understand this. Thusly, my opinion is only so valuable. Like it is very evident by the types of changes we're seeing in the gaming industry as a whole that there is market research that these things work and are valuable. It's just we're in a very Wild West stage of that. Things are not fine-tuned yet. As I think this post said earlier in parens, it was like, and the harsher edges smoothed out, right? Like, we're still dealing with those sharp edges. We're still sanding those down and refining them and finding where those lines are. Jagex crossed a few lines. Definitely. But, on the flip side, they are clearly responding to that, and just the fact that they are willing to admit that the prize pool, it was an absolute mistake and that they will never do it again, is a pretty big thing for especially a gaming company, which I don't know what it is about taking responsibility in the gaming industry, but it seems really hard for game developers to take responsibility for their actions.
Well, if you ask me, they don't do it because it doesn't work. Like, I don't know. You can look in our own Discord right now. It's people who are like, this is a non-statement. It means nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, no, they literally said things of substance here. Like, obviously, there are things they need to deliver on.
It's just things. That's the big thing. Number one, they've let us down a lot in this year specifically, and people are sore because of that and hesitant to trust anything that's being said. And I completely understand where that specific point is coming from. But to say that they said nothing is also unfair because that's not true. I mean, I believe there was a bullet point list that Mod Balance listed out on Reddit for somebody who was fairly salty, and pointed out, it cut away all of the fat from this, the fluff, if you will, and bullet pointed all of the changes that were being made. This is not all just fluff. There are actions that we can wait and see. That's the problem. Is they all are gonna kind of take time beyond the fact that we can pretty much immediately tell if they ever run the prize pool thing or not or whatnot. But at the very least, there's a line that we have now. Like, I've harped on this previously a minute ago, but like, I love the fact that we have case precedents now for what an egregious microtransaction actually looks like and can be defined as such. That is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, and to me, like I know I've said this before, I just have to reiterate it. Like, when they make these statements, it doesn't mean they're not going to make mistakes in a different direction. Like, we can see that from last year to this year, where last year they fixed the issues they had with outfits and things like that, but they obviously made a mistake in a different direction where they added the prize pool event and they started giving out way too much XP in Treasure Hunter. But that does not mean that the statement they made last year wasn't true and that they didn't act on it. It just means that they fucked up in a different way, and you can't say a statement is false because they did something else wrong,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one blunder is not an excuse or a defining factor in future blunders or steps necessarily. Past actions can help you predict the future, but they cannot predict the future with perfect certainty.
Well, and you can't take a statement to mean that, like, to mean what it's not saying. Like, what they said last year was not that they were going to tone back all of Treasure Hunter and stop running promos. Like, last year they were specifically talking about outfits and things like that, which they've clearly fixed. But they clearly went the wrong way in other places, and it's like you can't say, oh, that statement means nothing because they went the wrong way in this other way.
Yeah.
Like, that statement still means something and was upheld. Obviously, now they need to work on this, and that's what this statement is outlined, is working on the other OP aspects of Treasure Hunter.
I almost want to name the scape shot, like, smoothing out the edges of microtransactions, because, I mean, that's really what we're doing at this point is, at least, I think, though the community has a very special way of showing it, they do care, and this is definitely something that needs to be kept in line. But that's the thing, is this is a living game. This is a growing game. The industry is in a really awkward place right now when it comes to payment models, really. And though the AAA like single player game industry is definitely a different industry from the MMO side of things. Like they're different divisions of the same kind of industry, but they have to handle themselves very differently. And I think like the argument that putting loot boxes in like Shadow of Mordor or something like that is a completely different argument than putting it in something like RuneScape that is a completely living game that's going to be updated constantly, changed constantly, needs constant developer work and modification to keep running. That is a completely different industry. You have
and a game that we pay a monthly price for. Like that's something we haven't said yet in this, but I mean, part of what hurts so much about a lot of the overpowerness of Treasure Hunter is like, on top of everything else, we pay a monthly price for this. Like Shadow of Mordor is a game that you pay $60 for, and then you're never going to spend money on it again unless they give you a different avenue to do so, which they have in that game. And so, like, that's the huge difference between an MMO that you pay a subscription for and like a free-to-play game.
Yeah, I mean, and there is a reasonable argument to be had that RuneScape, if they want to continue down with the level of microtransactions that they have, then maybe they should drop their subscription model and make it an optional opt-in subscription model. And I don't think that that's something that they shouldn't look at. Like, I think it's worth investigating that and doing the market research on that. But at the same time, there is definitely precedents for games that have both a subscription model and microtransactions. Like those do exist as well.
You just can't go as extreme as what RuneScape has.
Yeah, you can't have prize pool and membership. Yeah, you have to keep those things within relativity of each other.
Because all honesty, if they removed membership and just like went ham on microtransactions, that would probably be one thing that would make me leave this game again. Because I'd rather pay for the privilege. Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why I don't really play other or mobile games really or anything. I play one other game kind of really seriously right now, and I'm even kind of debating whether or not I should continue with that game. But they offer a free to play model. It's completely free to play. There is no subscription, and it's completely microtransactions based. And they do an event system where they release generally about 2 events a month, and you can complete the base level of the event for free, with all the stuff in game. And so there's a first grand prize, a third grand prize, or a second grand prize, and a third grand prize. And you can get the first grand prize by just playing the game. You can get the second grand prize by playing the game and being semi-lucky, and you can you can get the third grand prize pretty much by being extremely lucky, like 1 in 10,000 lucky, or shelling out about $50 to $100. And that model, at the very least, there's no monthly fee that I'm paying to play this game, paying to play this game, so I don't care very much whether or not I get the top tier result from the amount. I play this game pretty intensely, and the same system would not fly in RuneScape. Like I feel like we're getting more towards that realm, or they were heading more towards that realm where it's like on top of this, it's basically like, how much money do I have to pour into this event to get this a single item that is going to change how I skill in that skill forever? And they've walked that back. That's again a positive thing they've done, is gone and said, okay, yeah, then we can make it so you can earn these in game, since they drastically affect how you play the game. Going forward, it's just okay. There's a cooldown period where they're on Treasure Hunter. I'm still not crazy about that, but I also understand the need for them to make money, and that's all there needs to be, is a level of compromise. And it's clear to me that they're willing to do it, to have that compromise. It's just occasionally they're going to push. There are going to be points where things go over the line a bit as we figure out where those lines lie, if that makes any sense. I can finish up here with this paragraph and then go on to communication. It is important that we don't overpromise. To be clear, this doesn't mean the end of Treasure Hunter promotions. What we are committing to is better managing their impact, duration, and regularity, making some immediate changes in the short term while looking to move to a more balanced approach in the mid to long term. So, on paper, that sounds great. let's see how it goes. You know, I mean, the immediate dialing back of Second Chance Tuesday is, from my vantage point, not really a solution, but it is a move of good faith. It is kind of a sacrificial lamb, if you will. Like it does offer a level of peace offering to show that they're serious. It's something they can do now without destroying their revenue model, or it's something they can do now without having a million legal documents to sign because, you know, from the higher ups to get, you know, that's where I'm coming from, at least on that. Do you have a different opinion, or do you agree or disagree? What are your thoughts on that this statement here of them committing to better managing the impact of these types of things and their durations?
I mean, I have trust in this statement. Obviously, we have to see what they deliver. Like I said, I feel strongly that they generally deliver when they say things like this. It may not be as cut back as I would like it to see it be, but yeah, like these changes can't be super quick because, like you said, they have their parent company that they have to appease, and their profit levels there, and even things like you can't just like turn a switch from like Treasure Hunter is XP focused right now. Okay, now it's cosmetics focused. Like it's not that simple to pull that off.
Be great if it was.
They need time.
Yeah, exactly.
If in a year none of this we're still sitting with the only thing they've done is cancel Second Chance Tuesdays, then obviously there's an issue. But you know, if they stick to this commitment, that will not be what happens.
Yeah, and all we can do is keep an eye on it. And what else can you do is hold them to it. And that's what my priority is holding them to this, analyzing what happens as it comes in and as it happens. And, I mean, that's all we can really do. What you really want to get players like me back into the game, it's going to take more than, you know, just the microtransactions. I think that they made a very important point here is it also has to do with a lack of quality content. Like, this year has just been lackluster. And I think if they're able to kind of, you know, fix that, atone for that, then the heat will die down as far as people looking for a fight, basically. So, yeah, if the quality of content can go up and the microtransaction intensity can slowly go down over time, then I don't think we're going to have a problem long term here. Anyway, in terms of communication, we've not talked to you enough. We'll pod up defense and communicate more. Show you all what we're working on and better explain our decisions.
Pod up.
I'm sorry? Pod up our defense, rather.
It was a, you know, nice
Runescape
reference.
Yeah. Well, we, as the game's developers, sometimes seem to have other priorities. We care deeply for the game, too. For most of us here at Runescape, is at the center of our lives and careers. We don't always get it right, but hopefully you can tell we are as passionate about the game as you are. In closing, hopefully you can see we're making some immediate changes and planning long-term improvements. You can help us too by making the RuneScape community the most positive and welcoming place possible. After all, the more players we have, the less resilience there is, resilience there is on MTX revenue. Reliance, rather. I'm okay. Our overall goal is to deliver your frequent, high-quality content updates, bring the game onto more platforms, and tune microtransactions to be less abrasive. We think this is the right approach to ensure RuneScape remains healthy. And overall, the game is still robust. In the last year, membership has remained stable. RuneFest 2017 was the biggest and most popular yet, and our marketing efforts are ramping up to bring in new players. With strong content in mobile coming next year, 2018 is shaping out to be a great year for RuneScape.
To all the people trying to claim that RuneScape is dying, they couldn't say those things if they weren't true, because it would put them in some big legal issues, like issuing a public statement saying that player bases remain stable and things like that. Like, obviously, they're not sharing direct numbers, but you cannot say things like that as a public company without risking legal
Yeah.
ramifications if you're lying.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. There's somewhere you can see their actual, like, publicly how many subscribers they have. You just can't see where they're from. So, like, eventually, yeah, this year's subscriber rates, whether it's a year or two offset, I don't know. But, like, eventually that data will become available unless they become a private company again. But, like, yeah, so lying about it now would be a very foolish move. So, yeah, I have no belief that they are lying to our faces, as it would eventually come to fruition that was the case, and that would only hurt them in the end. So, many of your desired projects are well into development, and we're looking forward to the live stream tomorrow, where we'll showcase progress on the Pirate's Quest, deep sea fishing, clue scroll overhaul, mining and smithing rework, the all-new Solak boss, combat pets, the upcoming Halloween. Is this live stream going to be 8 years long, or is it going to be 5 minutes on each thing? And the Evil Dave quest. Tune in to the extended special from 15:30 UTC. Well, they just said it's an extended special, so I guess I answered my own question.
Yep, 18 years long.
Yeah, 18 years long. So, that's cool. I mean, that's probably one of the best things they can do right now is showcase the quote-unquote quality updates they have in the pipeline to hopefully, quell the conspiracy theorists here, of which I often find myself crossing the line into. To be fair, to take a stab at myself here, I have not been perfectly, stoic on this issue. Stoic's not the right word for it, but I have not been of one mind. I find myself kind of jumping back and forth between being like, oh, we can find a balance, and also being like, down with microtransactions, RuneScape is dying. Like, I bounce back between the two, and honestly, it is really hard to feel good about the game when you go to Reddit or something, and it's just a tire fire, which I think where that line comes from, where they say, like, we need to be a positive community here if we're gonna, they don't say anything on that, but like they take because I say that specifically because this is all of them kind of posting here, but they made the kind of a low level stab. I'm not going to say this was like a real stab, but like they do kind of take a little stab at the community and how negative they're being by saying by making the RuneScape community the most positive and welcoming place possible. You can help us too by making the RuneScape community the most positive and welcoming place possible, because right now it's not. Yeah. But by creating an environment of belligerency and just like when negativity is encouraged, what can you breed but more negativity?
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly feel like like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm really enjoying Destiny 2, so that's part of why I'm not playing. But another part is like the community negativity is getting to me. It's not that I think Jagex is doing terrible and the worst ever. Like, obviously they are not doing well, and I want them to see them do better, but that's not what's motivated me from playing. What's motivated me from playing is just like the constant fucking negativity, and it's like you can criticize without being a negative asshole, and like that's what I wish more people, especially in gaming, could learn. Like, you don't have to be toxic to criticize. You can criticize a company and be nice about it, and that is actually more valuable than just yelling.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I mean, it's also part of why, like, to get a little bit deeper, like, why we've changed the format of the show a bit. Like, we used to cover Reddit quite a bit, but Reddit has turned into a shit show, and it's not fun to cover currently. Because you look at the front page and 90% of posts are MTX and the other 10% are memes, and it's like, how are you supposed to make a show about 90% MTX and 10% memes? Like, that's just not a good podcast.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we've only been really doing skill and chills. It's a lack of quality updates and an abundance of shit posts that are all shitting about the same thing. And I don't want to contribute to that too much. That's one of the main reasons why this is the first even scape shot I think I've done in a couple of weeks, is because there are no issues to cover that are not going to be completely overshadowed and downvoted to hell by this one. Like, finding content for a show is almost so exhausting and depressing that I don't want to do it. I don't want to do the show because finding the content for it is literally wading through shit and garbage, and that's not what I signed up for. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I mean, that's where I'm coming from, and I really hope that changes because I love the RuneScape community, and this is not what we are. This is not what we should be becoming. And yes, Jagex takes some blame in that, but we also have to take some accept our own part in it as well as a community. And if things aren't getting better, and this has been a bad year, but the year ends and we'll move. Life will continue on. If this pattern continues into 2018, then yes, I'm going to pack up shop and cancel my membership. But for those wondering right now, at this very second, I don't see a need to go in and remove my credit card details or anything like that. Or what I might be on the fence about is a Premier Club package, unless that, not because I again want to get them, have something against some promo or something. It has every little that is a promo, basically. Like, I'm not fighting against promos by saying that. What I'm trying to do here is say that I maybe don't have a vote of confidence that there's going to be good content throughout 2018. I'd rather pay on a month-to-month basis or something. I'm still undecided. If they can just release some quality quests in the latter half of this, whatever the hell we have left in this year, then I will. And Premier Club again is once again like a bargain for the yearly package. Then fine, you probably have me on board for one more year, but that is heavily contingent upon them releasing some quality content in November and December. I think there's at least one quest that we're supposed to see this year, right? Which is the Evil Dave quest, and then I think Pieces of Hate is early 2018. We can start off 2018 with a bang right there, right out of a cannon. No pun intended.
And I think it's important to say too, like, and I know I've already said this, but like, we are not saying not to criticize companies. Companies need criticism. Like, this post clearly wouldn't have spawned without criticism, but this post would have come if we had been nice about criticism as well. You don't have to be a jackass to criticize a company, and that's the main point here. Criticism is a good thing. Critique is a good thing. Calling people out on their bullshit is a good thing, but don't be a jackass about it.
Yeah,
it's what it boils down to.
You can respectfully petition. Like, that's a thing that can be done. We don't have to create violent protests. And though there's a difference between violent protest in real life and in a virtual world, I mean that in a sense of being destructive. Like, being antisocial is not something that helps further your cause at all. I may agree with a lot of points that were said on Reddit, but downvoted them for the way they were presented. Yep. Presentation, like in food preparation, is often 50% of the grade. And if you present an argument, but you do so through malice and conspiracy, then you're no better than the people who are allegedly perpetuating the conspiracy you're trying to expose.
So, I've been reading through the Reddit comments here, and there's someone talking about, can we please remember Solomons is a thing? Please try to shift some focus. Please try to shift some focus there, cosmetic-wise as well. And the JMod response says, we want to make a system which will allow us to support the game without overly relying on XP, which you guys have told us is a major issue. So I think that kind of, in some ways, answered the question that we've had as to what they meant in the article. I forget what word they used there. Convenience items or something like that. Like, so that's a direct statement that they want to make XP less of a focus of Treasure Hunter, which is a good thing to hear.
Yeah, I think that is a great thing to hear. I would love to see more SGS style things. I also love to take the time here and go through some of these comments. Are there any?
I think even like I mean, obviously, I want more SGS style things too, but I also understand that treasure hunter cosmetics will make them more money.
Yeah.
And if I would, in a perfect world, I want treasure hunter to be gone. I really do, but like in a world where you need to keep the same revenue as you currently have, you can't move literally everything to Solomon's. Like that's just not feasible. Like Activision Blizzard made $3.8 billion last year on loot boxes. Once again, $3.8 billion on loot boxes. I think it's or somewhere around that number. Wow. It's an extremely high revenue source, and that is like a lot of that money is from Overwatch, which is a game that literally only gives cosmetics and loot boxes. Do I think that loot boxes at its core are gross? Yes, but loot boxes that give XP are even worse. So like, if I'm bargaining, I want to see loot boxes that have cosmetics over loot boxes that have XP.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that is a point of compromise that I'm willing to make, for sure. Like, yeah, loot boxes that are cosmetic based are far more palatable than things that change your in-game experience beyond the way you look. Like that is something that I can compromise on and don't really mind at all because, yeah, you may look cooler than me, but at least I'm cooler on the inside. You know, that I can, at the very least, concede to, sure. And I'm still concerned about conveniences or convenience items, but I'm willing to kind of see what they mean by that and where that actually goes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it's just good to me to see an actual statement that says less things based on XP. Obviously, they didn't say no things based on XP, but lessening the focus of XP. Like, I mean, you know, if we got, it's like every 3 months we got like a smoldering lamp event or something, it would be much more reasonable than what we're currently at.
Yeah, I mean, like just dialing back. And like, if it's like I think you mentioned earlier, a trickle of XP, I can kind of live with. If it's more of like a happy byproduct more so than the intended result, I can get behind it a little bit more. I also, again, I like my idea, obviously, of XP boosts have a different effect. Maybe once you're 99 or something, like you've hit the actual max cape ceiling. I'd love to see that maybe they offer a different type of reward. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, the worst post 99 XP based stuff are the events, though, right? It's not lamps. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess in some like sometimes the lamp only promos can be bad, but really the worst ones are
Hydra lamps, burning, smoldering lamps.
But the specific skill based events that come out generally pump in way more XP than lamps.
I mean, the charity event pumped in a pretty large amount of XP. Yeah, I mean,
but that was also with work. I don't know. Like, to me, the charity events are obviously I can't speak for you, but to me, the charity events, I don't mind how they work, especially now that they're like limitless. It's like if you put in the time, you get rewards.
No, I'm just saying that like they give you a pretty hefty amount of bonus XP, and just using them as an example, and they're again, there's a scale, there's a sliding scale, and they are far less egregious than some of the other ones, and there's no RNG aspect really in them. I think you pretty much get a set amount of tokens every X amount of minutes as long as you're actively doing something that gains XP. So something along those lines that force you to play the game are much more palatable than things that just require you to simply log in and open your wallet, obviously. And they were on a really great track with that for a while. And I don't think they really even stopped that. It just seemed as though the XP grab promotions got like really out of control these past few months.
We've gotten like multiple a month for a while now.
Yeah, and that didn't used to be
silly.
Like smoldering lamps used to happen once a year. Like it was.
I remember. It was back in May when we got that extra double XP weekend. Or no, I guess that was the beginning of June. And they did like a lamp promo right before it. And you and I were like, this has never happened before. Like, they usually don't do this. And like that was now clearly a sign of what was coming and how ramped up that shit was going to get. But like that was also a line that was crossed. It's like usually they're very careful about not allowing you to get bonus XP for double XP weekend right beside double XP weekend, and that was kind of a line they crossed back in end of May.
Yeah, so, and those are things that I'm personally not a fan of, but those are straws, and as they add up, they eventually break the camel's back, I guess. Is what I got into here. I don't know.
So there's a another comment I want to read. So someone asks, would it be possible to step away from weekly promotions? And TX responded by saying, we're currently exploring how we can change the schedule of promotions. We'd like to add more variety and change things up. It's too early to give specifics, but we are confident that we can find a way to adjust the schedule to suit what you all want to a greater extent. Obviously, they're not committing to making it shorter, but if they're saying that they want to make us happier in that sentence, then clearly that means they want to try some ways to make it shorter. So just kind of more evidence that they are, wanting to try out ways to not have promos all day, every day.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that they're willing to try to make those changes is something. It's a start. Let's see it happen, and if it does, good. Then we're moving back in the right direction again.
Yeah, and here's someone asking for RuneScape on Steam. I don't understand why people want
RuneScape on Steam. Remember when people used to argue about getting DRM out of their games?
Right. I don't understand the gaming community's love for Steam. It's one of the worst DRM systems ever, but people, for lack of a better word, suck Steam's dick 24/7.
I don't get it either. The only thing I think people like about Steam is that it's kind of like an app store for the PC, and it just happened to be the first one on the scene. That's the only thing I can think of.
I don't know how the wool is put over people's eyes, because people are like, fuck DRM, but that same person will be like, I buy all my games on Steam.
Yeah. It's outrageous when EA puts always on servers in a game, but if Steam goes down, it's kind of the same thing. So yeah, I don't get that either. Steam is by far the only thing that I appreciate Steam for is their amazing download speeds. I can download a game on Steam servers faster than any other platform servers, including Blizzard's. It's I only can get 8 megabytes a second from Blizzard. Steam, it's 25.
It's interesting. I have way better speeds with Blizzard's. I wonder if it's just the CDN.
And probably. It's funny because I often have to use Twitch's Montreal server because the New Jersey server is really bad for me for some reason. So yeah, very well could just be the CDN I'm connected to is shitty for Blizzard, and they have no fallback to send you to a different one if your ping's high or some weird shit. So yeah, that could very well be the problem. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Steam, but I hate the monopoly it has on, because to me, Steam has basically just sat on its ass for the past 10 years. That service needs
Steam
needs a complete UI overhaul. It needs better moderation features. The fact that you can review bomb games on Steam.
Oh yeah, that's a problem.
And stuff like that is just gross. And they have no solutions, and they don't need them because they're a monopoly.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say I had a joke. It was a good one too. Dang it!
I interrupted.
No, well, I mean, it flowed with what you were saying, so I wanted you to finish. Maybe it will come back to me. But it was at Steam's expense. Oh yeah, you want to? Here's another one though. Here, you want a conspiracy theory though? Steam killed Half-Life 3 because they didn't need to make it because they made so damn much money off of being Steam. It lulled them into complacency. There you go.
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think that's just pretty easy to prove as fact. I absolutely agree with you.
I have to brand it.
Valve doesn't make video games anymore because it's way more profitable to just
host video games. It turns out.
Yep.
Just own the servers that serve video games, and you're good to go.
Yep.
I mean, that's why GameStop never made any games. Anyway, that's all I got to say. In regards to this current issue, bottom line, this is not something that I think is worth quitting the game over at this point in time, which I have expressed in the past that I was on the fence, and I was on the fence. I don't think I'm going to just up and quit RuneScape because of this. I think this response is an adequate enough of a response to elicit my continued watchful eye of the game. On the flip side of that, I'm still probably not going to play very much until they release some content to enjoy. Yeah, is that fair?
Sea fishing.
When deep sea fishing comes out, I actually will probably start 200 million fishing. I might do it. I might.
I really hope the deep sea fishing is a money making method. I know nothing about it, but it better not be another XP. Fishing has so much fucking XP.
Here's what they showed at RuneFest. So I mean, this is an extremely early work in progress, but what they showed was it was a method of training fishing that scaled based off of how attentive you were to the game, and that it was more to be like, if you're paying attention to the game, you're gonna get crazy XP rates, versus if you're not, you're not. They didn't, and this isn't to say that it isn't, but they didn't pitch it as a way to make money at all. And actually, they showed no items actually being gained from the ability whatsoever. But again, early work in progress. Missing mechanics could very well still have been.
That makes me sad. I mean, it's cool. I'm excited for the people who like fishing. That'll be fun. But what fishing really needs is more freaking money making, not that. I mean, like, especially because like we got waterfall fishing 3 years ago. We got the Ark last year. Like, fishing has seen so many XP increases. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I would like to see some kind of money making there, but if they're wanting to make XP, I guess that's their prerogative.
The one thing that I thought was interesting about it was just the scaling level of difficulty, that like you had the ability to do something that was intensive, or it scaled back to the point where if you didn't want to do something intensive, then you could not, but you'd be able to still play with players of all different levels. I think that was another one of the goals. Was it didn't matter if you were level 1 fishing or 99 fishing or 1,000,000 fishing, you could fish in the same areas, and it was based more off of your actual skill versus level, I think. And I could be wrong, because again, this was a very early pitch, and it's possible that I missed out on some information.
That'll be engaging to people. Probably not to me, but I mean, there is at least some variety. Encouraging people to pay attention to fishing is a good thing. But yeah, I think we've said enough. I don't know what is this, like 2 hours long now? 2.5?
I forget. I mean, it's long. Yeah, it's at least an hour and a half at this point.
We started around 12:30, I think. So we must be getting close to.
Did we just talk
2
about
hours.
microtransactions for a solid 2 hours? Because that's crazy.
We were
all over the place.
We brought together the Rambling Squad, so everyone who started this episode, once they heard our two voices, knew what they were getting into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you see the title of this podcast, and knowing that it's solely about one topic, and yet we seemingly talked about it for 2 hours straight, and then it'll be quite evident who was on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we close it, I will plug. I don't know if I've even plugged this on the main show because I haven't been on very much, but I have a new podcast out called Things We Love. You can find it on your favorite podcast app. It's about media with kind of a queer perspective, talking about media. And we just recently covered Leonard Cohen's album, You Want It Darker. We've also talked about things like Overwatch, and I can't even think of everything we've covered at this point, but check it out. I really enjoy making that show, and you should listen to it.
Life is Strange was a good one as well.
That's true. That's the one I wasn't thinking of.
Yeah, that game was... I initially was really turned off. I was like, this is a really old trope, but the gameplay and the storytelling was solid. And that's all I'll say, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it or watched it. It's a very story-driven experience. Anyway.
That story is very tropey, but the gameplay completely transcends the tropiness of that story.
Yeah, completely agree. And I won't go into too many details. You want good details, go check out Hannah's podcast. It's really good. Anyway, that's probably going to wrap it up for this escape shot. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And of course, if you want more of us, you can find us on our various social media platforms. We got a Facebook page for you, facebook.runeweek.com or facebook.com/rsweekly. Wow, my brain just defaulted to like a really old sight read. We're also on Twitter at rsweekly. And, of course, we are on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/MageBit. And if you want our YouTube content, that is youtube.com/RSW show. Or just RuneScape Weekly. A good old search for RuneScape Weekly on YouTube will yield plenty of entertaining results, I'm sure. I want to thank our top Patreon supporters, David, Jake, Hamster King, Kevin H., Odin, Sudwood, Riley B. Thank you so much for allowing this episode to take place. That goes for all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you very much for continuing to support the show, even in the lull that we've kind of experienced lately. And I do want to remind everyone that we are beginning a new streaming schedule starting in November. I'm going all out once again for the remainder of the year, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So if you want to support us, you can check us out at twitch.tv/MageBit. We're live on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at the moment, with the ability to come online for Tuesdays and Thursdays as well if we meet our sub goals, which is on Twitch. Again, twitch.tv/MageBit. Hope to see you there. We'll be streaming plenty of RuneScape-related content as well as other variety content, including retro content as well. I'm going to try to get into some retro games because I've been wanting to. And I figured it's good as time as any. Also, if you play Destiny 2 on the PC, I am beginning that tomorrow. That's something that I'm going to be doing. So if you play Destiny 2 on the PC and want to play with me, feel free to join our Discord at discord.runeweek.com and shoot me a message looking for people to play with, looking for people to raid with. We got Sudwood on board, so we're looking to form a raid team. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of RuneScape Weekly's Escape Shots. And as always, happy scaping.